look at our map bans. Of course, with a 7-map pool, we end up with 1 map as our decider. And we're going to keep going through them until we find our decider is Coastline, the exact same map these two played on last time. Jess, come on, comparison here. Empire, what do they have to do to fix the problems that they had before, and how have they been doing it so far?
I mean, this wasn't the last time they played on it. It's very close to it, so you're very close, Milosh. Last time they played, I can't remember what map it was, but 3 months ago they played Coastline 7-0 to G2, and I mean, you get no rounds. I mean, you can't really look back and say that there was anything positive to look back on. There's really only mistakes you can look back on. New teams, though, however. So I feel like this is a fresh slate for both teams. I don't think we should look back 3 months ago and really compare too closely. I hope that for Empire's sake that they've got something up their sleeve here. But Hap, I mean, Shepard, if he pops off, surely there's something they can do here to sort of salvage that.
Yeah, they definitely should be able to do something about it, but we got to keep in mind that, well, Coastline in history has been a better map for G2. Not just that time, like just in history, G2 is a force to be reckoned with, especially in Coastline. And well, now that this super team has formed with 5 fraggers, I think that G2 should be able to pretty much have a walk in the park right here, going to Coastline again against Empire here.
Yeah, and Hap was talking about these 5 fraggers, but we've seen how flexible G2's roster has been recently, right, Jess?
Yeah, look, I've been very happy to see guys like Uno and stuff like that move on to more flex/support roles when necessary. Of course, Pengu has always rocked that. So I don't think they're all fraggers necessarily, but I think they all possess the mechanical skill, which is important.
Okay, Jess, what do you think? How do you think this game is going to go?
I think it will go into the hands of G2 if we trust on the statistics, but all of my analysis so far has been pretty wrong. So if I say that, congratulations, Empire, for winning the upcoming match, really.
Hap?
If everybody on the G2 has their game on, they should be able to take a 7-3, 7-4-ish.
Okay, let's see what people think about this. As usual, you can vote on these matches over on our social media at R6 Esports EU. Oh, dear me, dear God. That is what people used to call in 2018 a big yikes. 83% for G2 to Empire. So there's people that unironically use the X to this day. So don't be that guy or that lady. So 5% draw. Let's see how this, though, translates into game. So matchup number 2 of this evening. Best of 1 on Coastline. G2 versus Empire. Let's get hyped. All yours, casters. Doesn't depth.
Thanks, Milosh. Welcome back, guys. We've got another game, hopefully with audio this time. I apologize for the issues we had earlier tonight, but we're ready to jump back into it. Gio, we're back. We're ready to get cracking. How you feeling?
I am pretty stoked. I mean, it's no secret that this is a pretty historic matchup. Of course, talking about Coastline, we speak about what happened in Pro League, but everyone remembers, of course, the most infamous game of Rainbow Six Siege of all time, all the way back in the SI 2019 finals. So I feel like the story continues on for these two teams like crazy.
Absolutely. We're talking about the two teams who have established dynasties for themselves in Europe and in the world. It is G2 and Empire. Good luck, have fun comes out in the chat. I notice how not a lot of teams actually put good luck because they don't want their opponents to have good luck. They want to save all that for themselves. But Empire here, starting out on the defense, they get the first attack of ban. And now, remember, we're talking about Coastline here. This isn't a map where it's all about hard breach and all that kind of good stuff. This is a map where anything can happen.
Really? Yes. I mean, it always comes up, right? It's a very, it facilitates that kind of frag-heavy playstyle a lot, which works very much into the hands of G2. In fact, Team Empire have only won this map once against G2, and that was all the way back in the Raleigh Major Finals where they took it 7-3 at the very end of their 3-1 victory overall. So it's never really been hugely to their style, but evidently they keep deeming it necessary and worthwhile to come back. They want to prove themselves on this map, and after what we saw, especially from Playday 1, where we have seen this very pugnacious playstyle, very bloodthirsty, there's no reason to say that they can't achieve it. They're just gonna have to really work for it.
Yeah, definitely an auspicious match here between these two massive teams. And well, both of them have been through a bit of a slump, so they're both looking to get back on the horse here. Both of them have had quite strong play days so far in the EU League. Now let's dive into that ban phase as it's just come out. Nomad banned out by Empire. And that tells me that they're probably going to try to facilitate some more aggressive kind of runouts and flanks. But G2 ban out that Valkyrie, which then kind of suppresses a bit of that aggression by removing some information gathering on the defense. And that's why we see always jump on the pulse. So you've at least got some kind of information gathering on the defensive side. But the mute ban here is pretty uncommon for me. And we've seen it creep in a few times. Mute's been a super prevalent operator, so versatile, not only as information denial, but as wall denial. You've got so many options there. And well, Empire are the ones to get rid of that. And they're not actually bringing any kind of wall denial. I guess that they're just focusing on... Oh, they're not even bringing any information denial either, so no Mozzie. We're really going to be looking at attackers who are able to get a lot of information with their drones. Good drone play is going to get rewarded in spades in this game, which I'm really looking forward to here.
I think it's also going to be worth looking out for how Always is playing on the pulse. Evidently, G2, they're going to be kind of coming in from above. That's why you see like the Buck and the Sledge who are making their way onto their roster. And we have two C4s on the side of Team Empire, because not only do you have one in the hands of Always, but also one in the hands of Scyther, who's going to be playing Mirror. Another one of those operators who very classically has been banned out quite a bit, and in recent times has actually slipped through the cracks. So if Team Empire can do that very well, then actually this could be a bit of a good night for G2 Esports, especially as if we look back to the first Playday, projectiles was something they were very good at.
Yeah, and if you flip it back onto the other side, and we look at this from G2's perspective, they're super favored here on paper. Last time these two teams played this map, it was a 7-0 in their favor. Obviously, both teams have had roster changes since then, but also we're talking about no impedance to the drones, no Mute, no Mozzie, at least not here in this first round, and we also have a Jackal. So in theory, this roam clear with the drones and the Jackal should be super effective, and especially as we are looking at a kitchen attack, G2 has so much soft breach to open up this floor. So unless if Empire can start nailing some of these C4 and take out players like Virtue and Pengu, I think that G2 should be in a really strong position to get themselves a lot of control and potentially an early man advantage.
That's certainly what it looks like. Here, Virtue's just having a peek down in through the penthouse floor. So far, can't see anybody. But as you can see, pretty much all of G2 are up here on this top floor in the northeast side of the map. Citizens just moving along slightly more southerly. And Team Empire spread out a little bit more, but Dan's not going to be part of it as Kanto Raketti gets that overkill. Unsurprising, given how much of a performance he's been putting on in the first week. He's just having a look to see what he can get. I think it's just Shepard who's sitting in on the site, getting ready to throw in those smokes, and that's going to lead Virtue in.
Plant attempted to come out from Virtue. The smoke does deny it for now, but Virtue's going to get straight back on that. G2 in commanding control. It's all on Shepard now. He can find one. Make sure this isn't a flawless round, but Warner's lonesome now in a retake situation. Finds a second, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because G2, such a strong, dominating, and forthright attack here in this very first round.
Very calm and collected. It certainly came across that way. And when we did look at where Team Empire were predominantly positioned, they moved very much over towards the west side of the site, which meant that, you know, a lot of this distraction was coming in from above them. They didn't want to be caught out in those angles that were being opened up by all that soft breach that we did mention. And so that meant that it was very easy for Virtue and Kanto Raketti to come in through the eastern side. And suddenly Team Empire weren't in a great position to deal with that. But now they're going to be going over to Blue and Sunrise, switching off of that Oryx back onto the Pulse. So that was going to be interesting. I was kind of interested to see how they were going to apply the Oryx, but I guess we won't be finding out for now. Once again, they haven't brought any of that intel denial, as you spoke about before. Obviously, the mute isn't available. Mozzie isn't going to be there either. But instead, they've decided to bring a vigil this time and maybe play a little bit more on that roam game that we've seen Dan do very effectively in the past. He was the first one to go down in the last round, but if he can survive his way out on this one, this could potentially be a good thing for Team Empire.
Another thing I noticed in the previous round with always playing that pulse, he was around below Cool Vibe stairs, below those blue stairs. And with that Nomad Band, it does enable more flanks. So if you've got the pulse, scanning up, seeing where those attackers are upstairs, seeing that perhaps it's clear for a flank, Team Empire might be able to capitalize upon that. Now, they didn't take the opportunity in that round, but especially now they have a bit more information denial in that vigil. I think that perhaps playing a bit more loosely, a bit more aggressively might help take the advantage over G2 here, who on paper should be totally favored in this attacking half with no impedance to their drones and that Jackal on the board on an already, in theory, attacker-sided map.
G2 Esports just being very patient in their move in, sending in all those drones. And, you know, it's kind of one of those situations where it's like you might as well take the advantage, take your time with that if you know that very little is there to stop it. Joystick, I think, is looking out. We did see Kanto's drone go in. There we go. It's going to be called out. In fact, Kanto's lost both his drones now. But is Joystick going to be able to deal with whoever may come into the office?
Joystick just contesting all of these angles now, and Kanto does get the spot out using that Inox. C4 comes out, doesn't find its mark. Not sure whether that was looking for the buck in Aqua, I believe so. But Kanto makes his entrance inside, looking to get aggressive in office. Does have the diffuser on him, needs to be cautious now. Always looking to fall back, as is Joystick now that he's been scanned out as well. And it does look like G2 are starting to hinge here on this office attack.
Again, G2, they are playing very patiently. No rush just yet. Just about half the round is gone. And so much of this utility is still remaining. But the question is, you know, as they start to move in, is it going to be a bit too aggressive for Team Empire? There go the smokes. And that could be their cue to start to move in. So far, Kanto Raketti, he's getting the plant down, and no one's there to do anything about it. So that's pretty much free for him. Citizen will be falling to Always, and he's going to be the first kill. But Kanto turns things around onto Shepard, and so many of these kills coming in here.
Wow.
G2 Esports is suddenly Kanto. Chill out, my dude. G2 Esports rather decisively taking that, and it was very patient at the start, but with that really free ability for Kanto to get the plant down, all they had to do was clear up at the end, and suddenly Team Empire no longer exist.
I love how one of those, the running joke about this new G2 lineup was that they're 5 fraggers. In fact, if you remember the announcement video from G2 Esports themselves, like it was like, no plants, only frags. And here we have one of the most renowned fraggers in the world in Kanto going for a plant. It shows that sometimes the memes are just that, memes, and they're not actually serious. Because G2 here, what they really are is 5 flex players. This isn't just everyone going for frags. Everyone is fulfilling their role in perfect synergy. It's something that Pengu's talked about a lot in the past. Now, I want to point out that G2, 2 rounds in a row, have been ready for an execute with a minute 20 still remaining on the clock. And that's not what we're used to seeing. It's like, oh, about 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds left, you can start that execute, but it's still a bit sketchy. No, G2 have so much time. They're just picking off exactly what they need. In that previous round there, it was offers and above control, so that's Aqua, Billiards, and Hookah control, plus offers. They had that in just half the rounds. And within 20 seconds, they converted that into a plant. It just shows that G2 have no hesitation. They are perfectly in sync, and they don't dilly-dally one bit.
Well, Team Empire, we did speak about not bringing some of those operators. This time they have opted for the Mozzie and also the Bandit, so that's a little bit more of that denial. And given that Uno Meister has been bringing the Hibana, it makes sense you want to electrify that courtyard wall, which we did see, because that's going to prevent G2 from being able to open it and having those free angles into it. There you go. There's the wall, nice and electrified. And it's looked a lot of the time like Team Empire have been expecting some kind of flanking from G2. That's why they've been a bit more spread out, and they're going to have to play a little bit more focused on the site, as G2 really so far have had free reign to just move on in as they wish. Dan just waiting here in service because he knows there are some members of G2 just outside, but he doesn't want to be caught on those drones.
That's why he has that ER7 disruptor. G2 trying to drone him now. It is Citizen. And Citizen isn't overcommitting to this angle. I like that from him. Dan, so far not flushed out, but it seems like G2 changing their push. They're not going to focus too much on him for now, and it may well be a VIP-centric push here. Citizen, I like that he's got the Tokenami Pro League, Chan, and that was the Pro League finals that he actually won. As we bring it back into this game, it's Scyther to open things up. Kanto, who's been nuts round on round for G2, gets taken out nice and early. I believe that was outside Sunrise, just outside the sauna door. Yep, indeed. And Virtue to pick up that diffuser, and it looks like G2 are in fact rotating over for this VIP-centered push.
All 5 members of Team Empire still standing. Although that said, in the last round, it was quite late in before that first kill was made. So not too dissimilar from what we've seen so far. And there's the rotation that you were talking about. Virtue just having a look on in, making sure that luggage is not going to be, well, he's not going to be peeked from it, I should say. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Sending in a drone there, but
I think that Virtue just saw Always using that drone, and Always, of course, playing below because he has that C4. So if G2 try and push in through Aqua, that C4 likely to strike true. Virtue's just going in for the kill. Look at that. Absolute confidence there with the SMG-11. Does away with Always. Gets that numbers back on their side, or at least even for now. But of course, G2, this is much slower than we've seen on both of their attacks, and there's still that X factor of Dan downstairs, ready to flank, but he is low on HP. G2 as well, with this presence down below the bomb site. Pengu in the blue bar, ready to use that skeleton key to mince up the floor underneath any players in Cocktail. But in fact, there's no one there. G2, though, just 25 seconds left. They need to get a move on because there's no plant on the cards just yet.
Well, this is where you're starting to see them move in from towards Aqua. And those members who are up there, they are getting alerted to it. The smoke comes out, and Dan's going to be getting a kill onto Citizen. It's a good start. The Virtue looking to make that plant, but wasn't quite able to get there, and now he's going to find himself bleeding out. Joystick finishing things off. Suddenly things don't look so good for G2 as time is seriously running out, and with just 2 members left, no one was there to try and pick up the diffuser, and Team Empire, they get their first round.
Yeah, it goes to show if something goes wrong for G2, that perfectly well-oiled machine starts to falter, starts to slow down a little bit. It was a 4 versus 4 with 15 seconds left. And of course, contrast that to when G2 were ready to plant with only slightly more than half the round done for the first 2 rounds in a row. But of course, this time around, it's actually Empire that finds that opening pick. So either a bit of aggression downstairs through Sunwise into Sauna, takes down Cancer. Now, G2, I think they were changing their mind a couple of times of where they want to push. They half dedicated to a VIP push, and then they're like, no, let's go for an Aqua push, and there weren't many angles open. By the end of it, there was like 20 seconds left, and Uno, the Hibana, is opening the spot where the mirror window would be in Hookah, looking into pool table, and like that's way too little too late for G2. No opportunity to force that plant down in such a vulnerable position, and you can see the shield, as we can see on the replay on the right-hand side of the screen, that shield from Shepard was still up and functional without G2 taking it out. So I'd like to see maybe a bit of return to form for G2, as they were so good with their time management on the previous rounds. But for Empire, it goes to show that that early aggression did pay off. Finding that nice kill early on really made G2 struggle in the mid to late rounds.
Well, now that we're cycling back round to the original site that we came to, which was Kitchen, this is where Empire have the opportunity to prove that they can adapt to what G2 did before. One of the problems that we did see, G2 put in a lot of effort opening up the penthouse floor, opening up the area above the site, and that forced Team Empire off of the site quite a bit. They were ready to use Cool Vibe stairs, but didn't end up having to do that because we saw Kanto and Virtue coming in from Kitchen to make a very, very swift plant, and suddenly Empire weren't in the right position to deal with that. Well, if Empire can be a little bit more adaptive to this scenario, then maybe they'll be able to deal with G2 a little bit better. And straight away, we're seeing Dan on the Legion down here, and Uno just opening up the door into main lobby. He's going to throw in the flash, but he didn't expect Dan to be there. And that's going to be a very easy opening kill. Scyther actually joining in onto the fray. Kanto does turn something around, but with that C4 as well, Team Empire definitely have the upper hand here. And very suddenly, in super quick succession, well, I was going to say Team Empire look like they're doing really well, but suddenly the man count is even and Scyther has just a sliver of HP remaining.
I like this choice from G2, hugely risky, but Empire with that heavy roam upstairs in theater, G2 said, all right, let's not go for our vertical take this time. Let's try and go for a bit of a hard hit, nice on an early. And hey, I don't know, I guess it kind of worked out. They have the health advantage right now, but obviously that diffuser is down. And Scyther has this super impactful spot with the mirror window. What's that from Virtue? Flanking around, and now it's all on Dan. He opened things up for Empire, but now the mirror window is working against him. How do you win that, Virtue? You can't lose those fights. All on Pengu, and he may well stick this diffuser, but Dan knows exactly where to pre-fire, at least you'd think so. Pengu now holding the angle. He has that ACOG on the C8, but we have to rely on Dan to clutch this. G2 in the advantage here. Dan just holding the angle. What you doing, mate? You got to move at some point. Goes for the peek on out, pre-fires, but Pengu's just better. And that's G2 to salvage the rush there that was almost thwarted by Empire.
The pre-fire there just completely alerted Pengu to his exact positioning, and he was just able to swing around and complete that kill very decisively. And really, that was kind of disappointing there for Team Empire, because they looked like they were really doing something better, getting in those early kills. That's something that worked out for them before. They managed to get a significant number of those kills before the first minute was even up. And what we've seen so far is that disrupted G2 enough on the previous round that it was able to help lead Empire into the win. But G2, it's kind of like they had a shot of epinephrine and suddenly they were up and about, and they managed to take those kills that really, in some cases, they had no business of securing, and turning things back around in their favor. Pengu going in for the plant, of course, and suddenly it was a situation. Dan was in that disadvantageous position. So now it's a 3-1, and G2 Esports are looking pretty strong. Although we know for a fact, James, it's not going to be a 7-0.
No, well, I guess Empire could say that they've definitely done better than last time these two played each other, but I feel like that 7-0 was a bit of an anomaly, right? We're talking about how G2 is definitely favored, but one other time that both of these teams played Coastline, it was the opposite of a 7-0. It was, what, 22-round insane fiasco. Like, that's the closest game we've ever had at a pro level in Rainbow Six history. So these two teams are definitely evenly matched, and of course, the teams have changed a lot since then, but I feel like that legacy is still valid and it's still prevailing here because both of these teams are playing so well. G2 on their first kitchen attack did a very... Oh, wait. Do we get to see this cute little mini game of the Twitch drone versus the mirror window? That is huge! Very, very nice job there from Uno, and even though his Twitch drone gets taken out, it's more than worth its value there with getting rid of that mirror window. That's lovely to see. Great adaptation from G2. But of course, Empire, I believe they still have this heavy hold upstairs in theater. So G2 are likely not going to be able to push this very successfully. Despite that, well, they are going to go for it. So this may go either way. Empire are prepared for this take from G2.
Yeah, you can see them getting ready here on the balcony, actually making this quite wide rotation instead, where you don't have a particularly strong presence from Empire. Scyther, of course, sitting there in Sunrise, but he's on his own. And we've seen what can happen when you're going up against Kanto. He's a man of many kills, and I can catch him here while he's busy doing other things, but actually Scyther, all right, he's just got to go get the 2K, working in 3K, make that 3 kills, and the diffuser is also now down in the doorway, and he's just guarding things here. This just leaves Uno entirely on his own. He is holding the F2, which is, of course, one of the best guns in the game, but I don't know, it didn't really mean all that much for all those others who were going up against him. Down goes the Claymore because he doesn't want to be sprung out on, and he's just got to look for his enemy here, taking in those shots, but not able to secure anything. He's going up against 5 players here on Team Empire. Make that 4 as he brings down Dan. But he's still got just over a minute, and he has to secure all these kills from. Not going to be able to do it. The odds were very, very much against his favor, and Scyther finishing things off with his 4th kill for a very, very good take there for Empire.
I mean, if you try and break that down onto paper, right? The way I see that round, okay, G2 want to go for that top-down take. It's what works so well for them in round number 1. Empire have a heavy theater hold. G2 realizes that, so they pick the Twitch and they get rid of the mirror without vertical play. Awesome stuff. Great job, G2. Then they're like, all right, since we popped the mirror, maybe let's not go for a top floor clear. Let's just push through Sunrise. And guess what? There's one player sitting there, and his name's Scyther, and he's like, no, you can't do that. This is my bar, and you don't meet the entry requirements. So you're going to have to sit on down and wait until next round.
It's like, show me your ID. No, sorry, we don't let
That's
you in here. We don't let you in here. Well, they're going to be switching out from that Twitch, which, you know, it was a good idea. They managed to get that early shot there onto the mirror window. Didn't do enough to turn the round, unfortunately. So this time they're going to be going for the Dokkaebi, and combined with the Jackal, that should give G2 a lot more information as to the location of these players on Empire. And there we go, just on the replay there, Scyther getting those 3 kills. Absolutely brutal, I have to say. And he's been having a pretty decent, well, just over a week now so far. It's always nice to see something like that put G2 in their place, and that's, of course, why they're having to make these adaptations.
10 seconds left.
And if you're G2 there, you think, oh, we made the right IGL call. We did everything right.
5 seconds remaining.
We just, I guess, messed up and all got 3K'd by a mirror window. And that's really micro mistakes that happened there. Like, G2 would just be like, all right, forget about that. Let's move on next round. And now we look into the next round. Remember that when G2 attacked Hookah Billiards last time, it was their worst attack by far, and it was the first round Empire got. G2 was so slow on adapting. They lost that early kill. It was actually Scyther who managed to get an aggressive peek out from Sunrise, believe it or not, onto Kanto. So for G2, what I want to see right now is a bit more focus, deciding on what kind of a push they want to do, and then making sure that they clear the utility set out from Empire. In particular, that shield in Billiards that was so important for Shepard's impact in the last round.
Yeah, I was having a look at that, and really I'm going to want to see Team Empire having a lot more vigilance for those members of G2 who could be coming up in through Aqua, as we saw last time, because it really was somewhat of a late reaction from them before that didn't really work out. But yeah, there we go. Shepard is situated a little bit further forward and would maybe be able to have a faster reaction in a situation like that. And G2 Esports did take a little bit of time on the last time they were fighting this site, which was in round 3, to decide exactly what approach it was they wanted to take. So it could be that we start to see a little bit of a faster one this time. I'm just seeing some disruption go there into the blue bar window, but always is going to survive it out.
I like this from Empire. They're roaming downstairs with 2 C4s, so G2 will have to flush that out. Citizen going in through office at the moment. Looks to be the lone man, but he's proning at that drone hole, and he managed to take down Always. That's a huge pick. Is the Pulse, one of the primary information gatherers for Empire, taken out. Now Virtue droning ahead, spots out Scyther. He's in Sunrise Bar. Once again, we know how good he is. Uno's going to re-drone. The call comes out as well. Now there is a Mozzie Pest that caught that drone coming in from bottom blue stairs, but now still Scyther, we know how good he is. He's had such an impact so far. Gets spotted once again on a drone. Can he be punished finally here, or are G2 just going to leave him?
Well, it'd be incredibly frustrating for them if they had all this information on him and still aren't able to get him. There's just looking into that phone now is Uno. Pengu's going to start taking a couple of shots, but 40 seconds remaining. G2 have to start being a little bit more assertive in this push if they are to take the round. In goes that second flash. That leaves Pengu with none remaining. Smoke canister coming out from Shepard to try and deny that, but actually Citizen was already on the site. He does get taken down, and this is great for Team Empire as they begin to hold G2 back. There's the other smoke canister. Pengu's still outside here on Hookah Balcony, but that's a nice frag there from Virtue. Things going backwards and forwards here, but Team Empire with those kills at the end. Shepard securing 2 of them, Joystick 1, and they were able to protect their bomb site and have 3-3 at the half. And I have to say, for this map, that's really not bad.
Especially with how strong G2 were looking on their attacks at the start of that half. Empire have to be really proud of their ability to claw that back. And I think that victory on the kitchen service where Scyther got that 3K, that was the most impactful play there. Because, look, G2 lost Hookah Billiards both times, but I think that's mainly on G2's side. Bit of poor time management. They maybe could have sped things up a little bit. And Empire, of course, played well around that. But G2 probably were banking on winning that kitchen service attack, and they maybe really should have. So Empire now going into the second half, maybe with one more round than they would have expected. So if Empire can follow through with some really strong attacks, this is looking really good for them against G2.
This is interesting here. We're having Scyther decide to bring out the Lion. And of course, combining that with the Yana as well, which we did talk about at the very first desk of the day, Dev, was that Yana's actually got a decent pick rate so far. And of course, her Geminis kind of provide that human intel, sort of act as extra drones. And when the mute's been banned out, you don't really have to worry about them being held back when they move into sight. So it'll be interesting to see if Dan is able to get a sufficient amount of value out of her. And of course, as I say, combine that with the information that can be provided by those EODs that are carried by Scyther. Team Empire, if they can use this information, should have a decent amount on G2.
Something else I'm noticing about Team Empire's lineup right here is that they have 6 explosives, whereas G2 are only running 4 on their attacking half. You've got the 2 nades on, always 2 nades on down, and 2 breaching rounds on joystick. So, oh, that's a freebie. Nice on an early Kanto. Bit off a bit more than he could chew with that run out, and Scyther, nice easy one. Always is going to capitalize it, but come on, that was Scyther's kill. And Scyther has been nuts so far. Not just fragging out, but a lot of impact plays, a lot of impact positions for him. So definitely want to keep your eye on that player moving into the rest of this half.
You mentioned how it was a bit of a risky run out there from Kanto, and G2 are really going to be feeling the absence of him on their side. He's been such a significant part of a lot of the kills that they've been able to acquire for themselves. Now, here's the first EOD, but doesn't look like it's going to be able to find anybody. Oh, there's someone so close there. Dan, Uno is right behind that door. Don't let happen what happened before. Oh, nice little rhyme there from me, but you remember when Uno was coming into attack, he actually completely missed Dan when he was on the Legion and positioned there, but instead he's going to be moving away.
Oh.
Is the second EOD, and Citizen's actually going to get caught out. That allows Spider to get that first kill, and Uno Meister cleaned up as well as Joystick follows up. Out goes the C4, but it's not going to find anyone. That'll give Virtue an angle up through the ceiling. However, he's going to be moving away, especially as that hatch opens. He wants to be watching the staircase. Goodbye, drone, but is he going to get caught out in the process? He's in a bit of a difficult position here.
Virtue caught between a rock and a hard place, but he knows he has to just win an engagement to make this winnable for his team. 30 seconds now. The round has been a 5 versus 2 for Empire. G2 looking to double up on each other. They know that their players have to make impact plays. Shepard likely to find Virtue here. The pulse just dancing between the bathroom and service. Empire in such a good position and still have time to play with. There you go. It's a 5v1. Call it a flawless round for Team Empire. Maybe they started slow in the map, but they haven't slowed down. They've been looking so good here, and starting off their half with a flawless attack is certainly a good way to get the ball rolling.
Team Empire absolutely determined to prove their worth. Remember, the last and in fact only time that they've been able to beat G2 on this map was back at the Raleigh Major Finals, which was pretty much a year ago now. Has it really been that long? It feels like yesterday, but it has been such a while. And something that's also worth bearing in mind is that 7-0 game that we have been referencing, and yes, even though it's slightly different rosters and you can't take it too seriously when thinking about will the teams perform the same way, but it's worth mentioning that we didn't really get to see much of Empire's attack in that game because G2 started on the attack. They got 6 attacking rounds and 1 defensive round. Whereas now, Empire have a chance to show what they can do on the attack, and we've had a good start from them so far. And if they can continue on with what we did just see in that last round, we could actually see quite a lot of ferocity come out from them, and hopefully off the back of that, success.
I think that definitely shows how much weight there is on Empire finishing their defensive half even 3-3. But maybe let's touch on Empire for a second, because these guys, about 1 year ago when you mentioned they beat G2 on this map, that was when Team Empire were the best team in Rainbow Six in the world. They had defeated the reigning world champions of G2 in a best-of-5 grand final. I think it was indisputable. Empire was the best team in the world. But since then, they've dropped off. They've had a lackluster few seasons in Pro League, really dropping the ball and losing games even by significant margins to teams like Vitality, BDS, G2, of course. They lost the Russian Major League to Virtus Pro. They are no longer even the best team in Russia. They're going from not being the best team in the world to not being the best team in Russia. Empire, surely there's a revenge boiling in their hearts, trying to get back on the horse. And not much has changed for this team. Yeah, they've made a roster change, but this is nearly the team, or 4 out of 5 players did so well and became major champions. But I guess they're going to have to sit down for a minute here. And Dan will have to take a breather on that Yana. We'll see whether Empire can recover from this and continue their streak.
That, of course, means those Geminis aren't going to be available either. And so that means even less intel available here on G2 Esports. And that's what they're really relying on if they're going to be able to get this revenge onto this team. You also have to bear in mind that Team Empire, they also just lost 2 of their frag grenades. Now, it's going to be pretty hard to go against the discs of the Wamai and the ADS of the Jaeger anyway as it is, but you would hope that on this site, they would be able to get a lot of value out of those projectiles. That's going to put a lot more pressure and responsibility on the rest of the team to be able to enable always to get value out of that utility for himself. There go the frags. All 3 frags, in fact, they're from Joystick, and he can get ready to use those breach charges.
It's, of course, the classic G2 hold here. But there's actually no one playing there. The couch is on the B bomb, and there you go. Penguin Shook gets destroyed, but he has another one in the pocket. What is that? I have never seen that before. Joystick says, all right, that's a cute trick, but I'm just going to get my second breaching round out. That makes me so excited. I've never seen that before. I know it didn't work, but that is like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Trust G2 to pull something cheeky like that.
Definitely cheeky is the right way of putting it. Here's the EAD coming out. I also realized I said frags for Ash. That would be great, but they were in fact flashes. Pengu, he's in this position though, and Joystick knows exactly where he is, and obviously he's going to want to win out these angles, but Pengu's very well positioned here. Just needs to be cautious and careful. There goes Smokes, and the next EOD is coming in. There's one of those frag grenades that I was talking about wanting to find value out of, and that's going to send Uno Meister down. Those were my discs no longer recharging, and Team Empire are actually going to follow up with a couple more kills. This is a great position for them to be in. Citizen no longer holding on to that C4 either. So that's something that he's going to be missing out on, and that's going to require a lot more up close and personal play coming out of G2. That is what we see. It's going to send Joystick down, but Citizen's going to get refragged out. Virtue coming in. He gets a kill. Is it going to be enough, though? The diffuser has gone down. Team Empire do end up winning out as Shepard gets that final kill.
A touch and go there for Empire, and I thought with that timer slipping away from them, maybe G2 would be able to deny that plant, but no, forcing that plant down was pivotal. Empire got the job done. Citizen wasn't able to deny it, and of course, Virtue in a 1 versus 3 retake with the Scorpion and no utility. That's a pretty tough position to be in. But for me, the thing that really was impactful for that round for Empire was Joystick on the Ash, using his utility. And I know there's a bit of a meme about Ash just being kind of a no-brain all-aim operator, but Ash has tons of good utility. It's all right. Kanto's just, trying to remember how to get some kills and disconnects from the server in the meanwhile. But talking about Joystick here for a minute, right? You've got 3 flashbangs and 2 breaching rounds. That is 3 flashbangs to burn ADSs or magnets, as he did, and then 2 breaching rounds to destroy shields or other important utility, which he did. And I mean, I'm actually a little bit surprised that G2 didn't have more utility to counter that push. But not only was there, 3 magnets, I think it was, plus you had 2 shields, because Pengu pulled a new one out after the first one got destroyed. Like, here's one I prepared earlier, we are rehosting. Yes, we are rehosting. Right. There you go. Hello. We're back on us again.
Just in case you just wanted to be sure, Kanto is in fact going to be back in the game. Hopefully, you can connect.
Yes. We're not going to play a 5v4.
They all live in the same house now. Well, that's the thing with G2. They all live together. So, it should be okay. It's not going to be like it, was before, where it could be someone's Wi-Fi just messing up. Who plays on Wi-Fi?
It means they can all share their sorrows as well when they get reverse swept on by Empire. But hey, the game's not over yet. That said, Empire are up 5-3 thanks to some really strong attacks. And look, and some strong defenses. I've got to say, the fact that they managed to pull away through on the defenses, you highlighted, defense is very tough on this map and has been historically between these teams. So Empire have got a lot going for them.
I think one of the interesting things that I noted about these two teams is, as we start to get, a little bit further into the competition, we can start sort of judging people's metrics based on who they both faced. And both of the teams so far have faced Rogue. And actually, Empire went 4-7 against Rogue, so they lost, and that was in Playday number 2, whereas G2 had a very, very decisive victory against Rogue, 7-2. And you look at that and you think, okay, if this is kind of the mediating, vector in the middle of these two teams, you would automatically assume G2, they look so much stronger. But actually, Rogue themselves had quite a big step of improvement and coordination between those two Playdays. So it's not necessarily all that telling. And I think that's kind of one of the interesting things is G2 have looked incredibly strong. And you can look at the game that Empire had against Rogue and say, first Playday, bit of a fluke. They're up against Virtus Pro, who turned out haven't been that great. Maybe Empire just aren't doing so great. But they look so much more together in this game. Yes, they had a couple of mistakes in the first few rounds back when they were on the defense. Of course, basically gave those first 2 rounds away. Their positioning was a little bit messy. They didn't have an entirely strong hold on where these members of G2 were. But they've actually been paying more attention as time's gone on. They've been ensuring that they're shutting down the right players. Cantor Ricchetти. And I mean, Scyther has been popping off. They've been using attacking that have given them so much utility and so much intel, not necessarily in the more traditional way that we see with most composition types. And it's been working out really well for them. And you mentioned it earlier, this is a revenge tour for them. And they wanna kind of have that redemption arc here against G2 and say, look, we've got this long-standing rivalry with them, and we're gonna prove that actually we're a force to be reckoned with.
I think you make a good point about Empire. Maybe there would be people skeptical about their performance so far in the season and saying, look, you're 7-1 against VP. That's not the best thing ever. 4-7 against Rogue, who maybe aren't the best team in Europe that they were last season. Coming into this game, we said that history dictates that G2 probably going to win this one. G2 look in better form, arguably, right now as well than Empire. But yeah, like you said, Empire come out of the gate swinging. Those 3 defenses are really, really helping them right now. The fact that they managed to win 3 defenses, both times on Hookah, and of course that crazy Scyther 3K, 4K, or whatever it was, holding Sunrise on that kitchen defense. So Empire, moving into the second half, like usually you pick to start on what you think is going to be the favored side, right? And that's probably attack here. Empire start on the unfavored side, but because they performed so well, they built up that confidence, that momentum going into their attacking half that they seem unstoppable. Whether it's quelling aggression from G2, like, for example, Cantor Ricchetti's run out in that first round, or whether it's dealing with anchor spots from G2, like Penga's little cheeky spot near the B bomb in Sunrise, Empire have just been perfect.
I think this is the thing is, G2 have almost had to come into this game. They were probably feeling very confident because of those things we said about Empire maybe not showing the best performance, especially in the last Playday. And they've learned throughout the course of this series so far that actually they are going to have to show respect to Team Empire. They can't just assume that they're automatically going to be, handed certain kills and things like that, as we have seen. And so we are seeing a lot more of a respectful kind of playstyle come out of them, because they're like, all right, these guys are serious, and we could genuinely potentially lose to them. I mean, especially once you got to that half, right, and it was 3-3. That's not super common here on this map. It is definitely attacking half to have the benefit here. And given that G2 started on the attack and they've been an incredibly well coordinated and very scary team, that probably took them aback a little bit as well.
Perhaps one thing to keep in mind, though, is that G2 actually started just as strong as Empire when they were attacking. Maybe not quite a flawless round, but really strong executes really early in the round, really good time management. G2 had tons of confidence, and then Empire started countering them. They started to contest more where G2 were pushing. They started to invest more utility in the areas they knew G2 were going to push. So as these rounds progress in G2's defensive half, there are going to be more opportunities for them to say, okay, Empire, I see what you're doing, and I raise you a counter. I raise you a heavy roam, for example. Here, they're going to play maybe a bit harder to get and then try and punish any sloppy roam clearing from Empire. For example, this top floor presence from 3 roamers from G2. These drones starting to come out. Shepard not overextending too much, and of course, Cantor Ricchetti countering that with the Vigil ERC7 disruptor. Maybe G2 can get a read in here and sneak some rounds back.
Potentially, that is what's going to happen. They certainly have the ability to do so. But Team Empire, of course, they're only 2 rounds off of taking this. G2 have got a little bit more to go before they're in that same scenario. Virtue just looking to provide some intel to the team. Who's above the site, who's around, but he's going to be actually taking some damage, and he's really low health now. Left to virtually nothing. It's going to be very hard for him to try and hold this site as he's down here with Uno, and there we go. Left to bleed out as Dan, I believe, got that shot in on him. He shouldn't be too difficult to finish off, but actually it looks like Pengu's going to come and try and do something. Meanwhile,
No way.
Kanto Raketti bringing down Always. So actually that first kill is going to be going over to G2.
And that's quite a significant pick as well, because it's that primary soft breacher that Joystick, or the Empire rather, were using to open up that floor. Speaking of Joystick, he's the one peeking on out through Billiards, but G2 actually made themselves a cheeky rotate into the courtyard from that wall, that drinks wall. So really nice stuff from G2, and that allows Kanto and Uno to get away scot-free. So they're not waiting for Empire and trying to take those fights. They're just going to keep running away and forcing Empire to be low on time. And now the Russians are looking at this thinking, okay, maybe this isn't as cut and dried as it looked like previously. This is actually starting to get difficult. We don't have a lot of info. We don't think we're safe to plant. What are we meant to do here?
Well, I was going to mention the fact that Dan's going to have to watch out because Citizen was coming up behind him, and that's exactly what happened. Citizen was able to get that kill, and suddenly that means only 3 members here remaining of Team Empire and less than 25 seconds remaining. There's that attempted run out there, but it will be falling at the same time to the 4. Nothing coming from the run out of G2, but they are going to be getting a flawless round for themselves. They're just able to clear everything up. And it was that great positioning that allowed them to be in that situation where they could make those rotations. And suddenly Team Empire still had very little time left to go, but quite a lot to clear out. And they were losing members left, right, and center.
That was such a great read from G2. If you want to remark upon that roam game once again, the fact that as soon as push came to shove and Empire started to hunt them down, they just ran away and they played for time, and that was perfect. But can I just point out that Virtue got caught off guard? You know, he's playing in the bathroom with no reinforcements. It's so hard to stay alive there. He gets injured, then he gets revived, and then he gets 4 kills. Like, what is that, Virtue? What is that?
You were so good going down really early as well. Actually, you know, I love this from G2 right now, the clash, because
Penthouse as well.
one of the big talking points, especially from the G2 Na'Vi game, was all the shield play that came out, right? And we saw the clash versus the Monty, and we saw some, well, just some Monty, we even saw some Blitz coming out from them, so much back on, it was on Cafe Dostoevsky they were playing on, but it wouldn't be G2 Esports unless they pulled out the shield. But of course, Uno's going to be playing it, and I think a lot of people attribute that role to Pengu, so, you know, I wonder if there was any infighting over, no, I want the shield, I want the shield. I'm going to be very interested to see how we have seen it be such a hindrance for a great many teams. In the past, they have to spend so much time and utility trying to bring down this clash or get out of the clash, and in the meantime, time is ticking. There's still get rid of, and suddenly it becomes very, very difficult to make that final push.
This is a very unusual strategy from G2. Very rarely do we see a penthouse pick, but Uno is going to stand at 90 with Kanto to support him. Kanto has a bulletproof camera watching his hallway to the south, and he has Uno calling for his hallway to the west. So Joystick's going to get here nice and aggressive with 2 drones ahead of him, but he may well be met with an immovable object in Uno if he starts to get too aggressive here. And plus, he's got Citizen ready to counter as well from the stairs.
Very difficult here for Team Empire. It's going to be, and you have the Vigil, as you say, playing downstairs. That's going to be Citizen placed down here in the main lobby, so that if Team Empire try and move around that part of the map, it's going to be quite hard. You know, I always love like how Clash has her nails painted. It's like, I've got, you know, I've got to go do this anti-terrorist training, but BRB, let me paint my nails. It's always the first thing I notice about her. So far, not much movement coming out. There's some early gunfire. That's going to alert some of those positionings. Is the EOD going to do the same thing, though? Not really anyone from G2 was moving, so whether or not that was useful to them doesn't really look like it was.
Empire's been pretty slow here. Joystick has been sending in luggage for the better part of the round now, and he's just holding this angle to top white, but I don't think Citizen's going to get over-aggressive. He knows his best chance here is just to keep holding lobby, and then only flank up white if he needs to. There's barbed wire to prevent Joystick from getting in there without at least making some noise. And there hasn't been a lot of progress here for Empire. And now Pengu to get an aggressive pick. He does get refragged eventually by Shepard. That said, I believe we've got the VIP walls open now into Penthouse. Can't quite see from this angle. No, in fact, I can't tell. Still can't tell. Citizen, though, rather to find another one with Scyther. 3 versus 3 now. And that's, you love to see that. Citizen to peek out around the clash. And now just 2 players left for Empire to try and salvage this.
There we go. Citizen's going to be taking some of those shots, using that clash shield as a little bit of protection. Able to get the headshot onto Dan. That's great for him. Shepard, he's looking for some of those shots, but he doesn't know exactly where he's ending up. He's standing right there, but there's not so much to do. A tiny gap between the shield and the door frame. That's why he's going to try and use these peek holes. But of course, that intel as to where he is going to be able to be passed on. Camera goes down, but he's not even going to be able to see his opponent before Cantaretti is able to bring him down. And, well, that's the thing. When you play on a site that's not very commonly played and you bring an operator that's very hard to dislodge, there's only so much you're going to be able to do.
Can I actually point out that one of the things G2 did very, very early on in this game to enable that strategy to work was banning out the Capitao. Now, we know how good Scyther is on that Capitao, such an impressive player on that operator, and Empire love to bring it, and it's the hard counter to that strategy. You just use those firebolts at 90 and the Clash has to push back, but no, instead, G2 banned it out, and they knew that they were pretty safe there. Perhaps the shield could have been knocked back by something like a Zephyr, but that's so much less effective than the fire from Capitao. And Citizen was allowed to get 2 kills peeking around 90 around that clash. So G2 as a whole, really great stuff on that strategy to whip it out. They had the forethought to ensure that it would work by banning out the Capitao. And that really stumped Empire on that attack because they just did not know how they wanted to push that, and they couldn't deal with the setup from G2.
Well, I did mention a couple of rounds ago how Team Empire, they were only 2 rounds away from being able to secure themselves the map, and G2 Esports are kind of far away. Well, now things are evened up. 5-5, and all it's going to take is a couple of rounds for now either of these teams to be able to secure themselves the win. Last time they came to this site, round 8, Team Empire were able to make the plant, and in fact, G2 were playing a slightly different composition. They brought the Ella instead of Doc. But this time, having those stim pistols and the ACOG is going to be evidently very beneficial to them, or at least so that they would hope. You have a little bit more of a kind of support for the rest of the players.
I think especially players like Citizen feeling very confident now after such a good round, and you can see G2 playing off of each other, playing tag team on this roam. Always within an arm's reach of a refrag. And of course, jamming those drones as much as possible. With that mute band out, G2 are relying on this Vigil to try and hide from the drones rather than jamming up doorways itself. And one drone taken out as it enters Theater. Empire looking to go for a master bedroom take across towards Hookah, but so far they've been stalled out. Scyther sending his second drone in. His last one remaining. No one's entering directly behind this drone. That said, Shepard, of course, the drone ahead as well, clears that hallway, but finally Empire are going to start pushing in. But you can see the hesitation just emanating from these players. And when Citizen opens it up with a kill on the joystick, you've got to feel like this is such a difficult deficit to crawl back from. Empire are being manhandled right now by G2 on this roam.
And this is one of the really big historical problems with Team Empire. Is as soon as they start to lose a bit of that confidence, you notice it in their performance. It happened when they were playing against Rogue, and it could potentially be happening here. That nade's not going to be enough to bring Kanto down, but it is going to dislodge him, and he's just going to be holding out in the hallway instead. If that Doc can get a sight onto him, maybe he can be stimmed up, but he's actually going to be going down before that can happen. A couple of kills coming in from Team Empire, starting to even out this man count, but they've still got to move in towards the site where those remaining members of G2 are. Xcaris is able to go off, trying to get an angle through it, but so far not having any luck in finding his enemy.
My question is for Empire, do they rotate to go for an aqua push? Because while they do have VIP, they don't have direct access to either the B or A bomb site through hookah, balcony, or through aqua. And Virtue's playing a very aggressive angle all the way over to luggage door, which it looks like is where Empire is going to rotate. Shepard may get caught off here. Virtue's holding the line. Is he going to fight? No, he's not even playing it aggressively. He's just waiting for a sound cue and going to peek on out. He has that ACOG, starting to hold this line now. He hears it as a player there, but he might be closer than Virtue realizes. There's the head of Shepard taken off. Now continuing to hold this angle through that E1D charge, always to shut him down. That's perfect, but with only 15 seconds left, and G2 is just going to smoke him out of the bomb site. Sai, they're trying to push up through long. Wait a second, is this doable? It's all on Uno now to hold this, but always has to find this kill. There's so much info for G2. Always has to find this, but he doesn't know what to do. Chasing the kill isn't going to work, and G2 Esports on the comeback and on to match point.
And that's going to be really frustrating there for Team Empire as they're able to kind of come around and sort of form somewhat of a pincer as, you know, after that first half of that round wasn't necessarily particularly, nice to them. And I was thinking if they were able to get rid of that dock early, if Shepard hadn't have gone down, then that would have removed that ability for those stims to be used on someone like Pengu if they'd have gone round for a different angle. But evidently, he wasn't able to be taken down in that first shot. Time was wasted. The smoke started to hold them back, and that made it very, very hard for that final kill onto Uno to be secured, even though Empire had made it that far, despite what you could say are the odds. Going back to Blue and Sunrise.
Actually a bit of a surprise to me, to be honest, because G2, they just won 3 rounds in a row, right? Kitchen, and then Penthouse, and then Hookah. So Kitchen is now unlocked, as it's been 2 rounds since they won it. But they decided not to go back to there. They decided to go to Blue Bar Sunrise, which they previously lost. And it was a fairly convincing fashion. If you recall, Joystick pretty easily dismantled the hold from Pengu in at the couches near the B bomb with his shields, I should say. There was really no struggle at all from Empire to take control of that. I wonder, what's the thought process here for G2? Instead of going to that tried and tested bomb site on Kitchen, they're going back to a bomb site they've already lost. Now, they have brought the mirror instead as an addition to potentially hold a bit stronger presence on the top floor and also downstairs to prevent a blue push, but that's not going to help on this Sunrise push. So I hope that Pengu can stay alive a bit longer. Maybe he'll have his second shield still in the pocket, but really we need to see those ADSs from Virtue and the magnets from Kanto to try and keep those shields alive as long as possible for Pengu.
This is the first time we've actually seen a Thatcher come out today. Be interesting to see how that's going to be utilized to bring down some of that utility that G2 do have. And of course, Team Empire, if they lose this round, then they lose the match. 7-5 is not a terrible scoreline, but of course you want to be racking up those points in the standings, especially as G2 are very much close to the top and Team Empire aren't. They're starting to move in. Kanto's looking to get that early angle, and there he does. He gets it. That Thatcher's not going to be in play anymore. Out go another one of those on my protection, but Dan no longer a part of this squad.
Empire took really early control of Office, and they had about 3 drones go into the A bomb site. That shield taken out now in blue as well, but Virtue still has that mirror, so there's still something to hold on here. But of course, Empire can plant safely, and Virtue can't take him out while the plant's going down. He doesn't have a C4, but his teammate might. The X-Kairos to go off, and that'll counter the mirror window nice and effectively as well. G2 getting dismantled here, but there's only half the round left for Empire to execute, and they still don't have the top floor control. Uno can deny plant if Empire try to force on through. So there's still a lot of steps left for Empire to make this happen.
And that's exactly the concern, is do they have enough time where they're going to be able to do it? There's still about half the round left, but we've seen how slowly Empire have approached some of this in the past in a way that's made it a little bit messy when you get to that late round stage. Uno Meister still looking down through the floor, and the Shepard even knows he starts to creep on forward. He's in a pretty vulnerable position here if he does get caught out. So far, Uno can't see anything, but he's pretty close to being able to secure that kill if Shepard isn't careful.
Oh, and the gas as well to come out, making it so much more difficult. But Kanto to get another one, always with an opening onto the player, the main player that was ready to counter this from Empire. That's Virtue on the couches, but Joystick stepping up huge right now for his team, trying to take control of this upstairs. He needs to nail this next kill though, and that mirror window doesn't seem to have an effect at all. Just peeks around the corner and takes him out. Now 2 players left for Empire, staring down match point after what has been such a good game. They can't let a few rounds get the better of them. 2 versus 3 now, and it's all on Shepard and Always, the one of the newest players. Always to find one. Very nice stuff. Can the plant go down? It's a 1v2 now for Kanto. He's been on fire all game, but he has to clutch up when it matters most. On match point here, a very low HP Shepard gets the diffuser down, but Always has been the man to make an impact here for Empire. G2, all their hopes ride on Kanto right now, and that vertical presence comes out. That tells Kanto exactly where Always is, but he doesn't have the info on Shepard. This is going to be so difficult, that 7-second diffuse time. He can't stick this. Shepard's going to peek it, jumps in, and takes Kanto out. That is Empire to tie up the map after a hard-fought match between these 2 teams. The rivalry continues.
Absolutely insane. It looked like in that last round, G2 were absolutely going to be able to take it, and that Empire were going to have to walk away with yet another loss on Coastline to this team. But no, this fight continues, the rivalry goes on. And while it's not a 7-0 and it's not a 7-3, it is a 6-6. The saga continues.
It begs the question, right? If we did have overtime here, if we had unlimited overtime, who knows?
No, we
how
don't
long
want to
this
talk about
game-
overtime on this map with these 2 teams. I'm sorry, we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was a fantastic match. Let's see what the analysts have to say about it. Let's take it over to you, Milosh.
Thanks so much, James and Gio. Yeah, that was a very close game between these 2. It started off well for Empire, but in the end, it kind of really came back. Honestly, guys, Jess, I know you were looking into this. You're seeing how Empire were performing.
Yeah.
What happened with that slow start?
I think for Empire there were a lot of standout players, but unfortunately those standout players happened to show up on different rounds rather than simultaneously in those rounds that really mattered, the ones that G2 were able to take really dominantly. So I think moving forward, they want to make sure that they're not just relying on star players per round. They need to culminate together and have that real team synergy.
And Hap, you're trying to see this from your perspective specifically, because we went into this. We're talking about Empire and how they are trying very hard to fix their problems, and they've had the best scoreline so far right now against such a big team. Yeah, sure, they won day 1, but this is a bit different today.
It's definitely a bit different, especially like mentioned multiple times before today, that G2 and Empire, they have a long history, especially on this map. Odds were heavily stacked against it, but they still managed to fight back, and I think that's something very commendable. And it's not like G2 played bad, because every single member of them showed up, so it's literally that Empire just basically managed to keep up and eventually outplaying that very last crucial round.
Things to fix, though, for the future. It ended up in a tie, which means there were mistakes, and we saw a big mistake in that last round, Jess.
Yeah, I think in the end, you can't allow people to rush in on site and take advantage of you. There should always be, even if it's the last seconds of the round, don't be all looking one way. Make sure you're watching all of your openings, especially when you're unsure as to where the execute is actually going down. Just because the diffuser's over an office doesn't mean that that's where all the players are going to be. So I think that was the downfall and took away 2 whole points from G2, which could be really crippling for the whole entire phase for them.
Yeah, pretty unfortunate, because if you look at the scheduling for next time, G2 play BDS and Empire are going to go up against Na'Vi. So definitely 2 big teams that they are going to be playing against later on. Hap, from your perspective, Empire, what do they need to do to be ready for next game, specifically against Na'Vi, off of just watching this Playday 3 match?
I'm going to say they looked like in the first 2 rounds, it looked really poor, right? But they managed to pick it up quickly. They managed to adapt to what G2 was doing. So I think that's like they're already on the good track. They just need to work on that. Maybe become a little bit quicker and a little bit more determined. Because as rounds started coming back towards G2's side, you saw them hesitating a bit, and hesitation is deadly in Siege. So they need to be more confident in what they do.
Yeah, well, let's see how that confidence translates into rankings later. Actually, let's pull up those rankings and take a look at them and where we stand so far. BDS still at the top with 6 points. G2 still with that extra point today. They've had 2 draws so far. There's 2 other teams, Navi and Secret, that have also been kind of drawing all over. 5 points for G2. Tempera will be playing later on. So that is where we stand. Empire were able to collect that 1 point. So, in preparation for our next matchup, Jess, Hap, anything you guys would like to add at the end? This was Coastline. This is frag heavy map that we always talk about. Lion and Yana were both played extremely well. And even saw Amira. That's odd.
I think when it comes to Coastline, you got Mira. A lot of people say, well, she doesn't really matter, but I think with sites like Kitchen and Blue Bar specifically, Mira is so integral. I mean, you don't need an evil eye at that point. You can watch all of the office entry. You saw in one round there that, and I wasn't sure who was playing. It definitely wasn't the Mira who was playing. It might have been the Bandit or the Jaeger, and they could see the tippy top of Habana's head just over the Blue Bar. I mean, that kind of information is huge because, as you guys know, recently Ubisoft moved the camera of the players from the top of the head down to the center of the head. And why that's so important is because the Habana would have no idea that the mirror player could see the top of their head. So I think having that kind of vision with the mirror is super important. It can change rounds and almost change that round in favor of G2, which would have given them the win. So Mira, she's a little bit underrated, I think, in a lot of maps. And in those sites specifically, she was very integral to a lot of wins.
All right, let's get ready for our next matchup. It's Team Secret versus BDS, or halfway point in these 5 matches for EU League Playday number 3 after the break.